The cemetery smelled like cut grass and broken promises. I stood in front of Richard's headstone, polished granite that cost more than our first car, and tried to remember the last time I'd told him the truth about anything. The stone read, Richard James Ashcroft, 1962-2021, beloved husband and father. What it didn't say, died believing he'd failed everyone who ever loved him. 3 years. 3 years since I'd found him in the garage, slumped over the steering wheel of his Lexus, the engine still running. The coroner had been kind. Massive stroke, he'd written on the death certificate, and I'd let that lie calcify into family history. Let Quentin believe his father had simply been taken too soon, too fast, no warning. The truth was in my safe deposit box at First Republic Bank. A single sheet of paper in Richard's careful handwriting. I can't let them see me fail. Tell Quentin I loved him. I'm sorry, Penny. I'm so sorry. Mom? I turned. Quentin stood 20 feet away, next to his Tesla. The Model S he couldn't really afford, but leased anyway, because Madison said it made the right impression. My son, 32 years old, 6'1", wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost $2,000. He had Richard's jawline, my green eyes, and neither of our common sense. Hey, baby. I tucked my hands into the pockets of my cotton cardigan, $14.99 from Target, clearance rack. Didn't know you were coming. I texted you. He walked closer, his Italian leather shoes sinking slightly into the soft earth. You didn't respond. Phone's in the car. A lie. My flip phone, yes. I still used a flip phone, and yes, it drove Madison insane, was in my purse. I'd seen his text. I'd ignored it because I knew what was coming. Quentin stood beside me, staring at his father's grave. For a moment I thought he might say something real. Ask me how I was doing. Tell me he missed his dad. Something human. Instead, we need to talk about your finances. There it was. I kept my face neutral, a skill I'd perfected over 3 decades of business negotiations. My finances are fine, sweetheart. Mom. He used his executive voice, the one he practiced in the mirror. You're living on Dad's life insurance. That's what, $200,000? It's been 3 years. You can't have much left. Try $41 million in liquid assets, I thought. Try $68 million if you count the company. Out loud, I said, I manage. That's exactly the problem. You shouldn't have to manage. Madison and I have been talking. Of course they had. And we want to help. We think it's time to have a serious conversation about your living situation. The wind picked up, scattering oak leaves across the cemetery paths. Somewhere behind us, a groundskeeper's mower hummed to life. I watched a cardinal land on Richard's headstone, tilt its head, then fly away. My living situation, I repeated slowly, is a 3-bedroom house in Arlington that I own outright. What exactly needs to be discussed? Quentin shifted his weight. Uncomfortable. Good. The property taxes alone are probably killing you. And maintenance, utilities, insurance. Mom, that house is expensive. We found some really nice senior communities. I'm 58 years old. With activities and healthcare support, you'd have friends your own age. You wouldn't be isolated. Isolated. Like I was some lonely widow rattling around in an empty house, waiting for my son to rescue me. The thing was, he genuinely believed this. I could see it in his face, that careful blend of concern and impatience that meant he'd already decided what was best for me. He'd probably made a spreadsheet. Madison definitely made a spreadsheet. When are you coming over? I asked, changing the subject. That's actually what I wanted to talk about. Madison and I want to have dinner with you. Thursday night at your place, we'll bring her parents. Robert and Patricia Morrison, of course. I'll cook, I said. Mom, you don't have to. I said I'll cook. Quentin sighed, that long-suffering sound that meant he thought I was being difficult. He leaned down and kissed my forehead. Thursday, 6 o'clock. We'll talk then. He walked back to his Tesla, the setting sun gleaming off its immaculate paint job. $70,000 car, $87,000 in credit card debt I wasn't supposed to know about. I turned back to Richard's grave. He's going to hate me. I whispered to the granite. Before this is over, our boy is going to hate me. But you were right, weren't you? If I don't let him fall, he'll never learn to stand up. The cardinal returned, perched on the headstone again. This time it stayed. Thursday arrived wrapped in the kind of Texas heat that made the air shimmer. I'd spent the afternoon cooking, pot roast, the way Richard used to make it with carrots and potatoes, and enough salt to alarm a cardiologist. The house smelled like memory and garlic. My home office sat just off the kitchen, door always closed when Quentin visited. Inside that room, a standing desk with 3 monitors, real-time logistics tracking for 48 warehouses across 12 states, and a framed photo of me shaking hands with the governor at a Women in Business luncheon. The plaque read, Penelope Ashcroft, CEO, Ashcroft Logistics, Texas Businesswoman of the Year. Quentin had never been in that room, not once in 3 years. The doorbell rang at exactly 6 o'clock. Madison insisted on punctuality. I opened the door to find my son, my daughter-in-law, her parents, and, surprise, a man in a navy suit carrying a leather portfolio. "Mom, this is Trevor Gaines," Quentin said, not quite meeting my eyes. "He's a financial advisor. We asked him to join us." Madison stepped forward, air-kissing near my cheek. She smelled like Chanel No. 5 and ambition. "Penelope, you look lovely. Is that new?" She gestured at my dress, a simple cotton shift I'd owned for 6 years. "Come in," I said, stepping aside. Robert Morrison entered like he owned the place, his eyes already assessing, cataloging, pricing. He owned 3 car dealerships in Houston and never let anyone forget it. Patricia followed, her Hermes bag probably worth more than most people's monthly mortgage. We settled in the living room, them on my sofa, me in Richard's old armchair. Trevor, the financial advisor, perched on the edge of a chair, opening his portfolio with the rehearsed precision of someone who'd given this presentation before. "Mrs. Ashcroft," he began, "your son has asked me to review your financial situation and provide some guidance. Has he shown you my bank statements?" I asked pleasantly. Trevor blinked. "Well, no, but based on the information Quentin provided, then you're not reviewing my financial situation. You're making assumptions about it." Madison jumped in, her voice honeyed with false warmth. "Penelope, we're just trying to help. We know how overwhelming it can be to manage everything alone. What specifically am I failing to manage?" Silence. Quentin cleared his throat. "Mom, don't be defensive. This house, it's a lot. 3 bedrooms, that big yard. The property taxes are probably $12,000, maybe $15,000 a year." $16,432, I said. "Paid in full every January." Robert Morrison leaned forward. "Penelope, let me be frank. You're house poor. It's a common situation for widows. You've got significant equity trapped in this property. We had it appraised. You're sitting on $740,000, but you're bleeding money every month trying to maintain it. We had it appraised." "You appraised my house," I said slowly, "without telling me." Patricia patted my hand. "Dear, we're family. We're looking out for you. Robert knows a wonderful estate attorney. We could help you set up a transfer." "A transfer." "To Quentin and Madison," Patricia continued, smiling, "for estate planning purposes. You'd still live here, of course, but they'd take over the financial burden. The taxes, the maintenance. You could finally relax." Madison produced a folder from her designer tote bag. "We had some documents drawn up, just preliminary. Nothing set in stone, but it would protect everyone's interests." She set the folder on the coffee table. I didn't touch it. Trevor took his cue. "Mrs. Ashcroft, what your family is suggesting makes sound financial sense. By transferring the property now, you'd avoid probate complications. And there are several excellent retirement communities in the area. We've prepared a comparison of monthly costs." He pulled out a spreadsheet. Of course there was a spreadsheet. "With your current estimated income," Trevor continued, "approximately $3,000 to $4,000 monthly from life insurance dividends, and perhaps a small pension." I let him talk. Let him lay out his careful calculations about what my life should cost, what I could afford, where I should live. Quentin nodded along. Madison watched me with barely concealed impatience. Patricia looked sympathetic. Robert looked like a man sizing up a business acquisition. When Trevor finally finished, I smiled. "Thank you for your time," I said. "Dinner's ready." "Mom," Quentin started. "I said dinner's ready." We ate pot roast at my dining room table, the one Richard and I had bought at an estate sale 20 years ago for $200. Madison pushed her food around her plate, probably counting calories. Robert dominated the conversation, talking about his dealerships, his latest acquisition, his plans to expand into the San Antonio market. "We're shipping through Ashcroft Logistics now," he mentioned casually. "Best rates in Texas. Though I've never met the owner, total ghost. Some widow who bought the company from her husband's estate, I heard." I cut my pot roast into small pieces. "Is that right?" "Absolutely brilliant businesswoman, whoever she is. Bought the company when it was circling the drain, turned it around completely. Worth millions now." He laughed. "Probably sits in some office tower, never gets her hands dirty." Quentin added, "My company uses Ashcroft for warehousing. The Irving facility is perfect for our needs. Lease is up for renewal in August. Hopefully rates stay reasonable." "Logistics is complicated," I said mildly. "Rates depend on a lot of factors." After dinner, they gathered in the foyer. Patricia hugged me, her perfume cloying. "Think about what we discussed, dear. Robert's attorney can answer any questions." Trevor shook my hand. "Mrs. Ashcroft, my card is in the folder. I'm happy to walk you through the numbers any time." Robert clapped Quentin on the shoulder. "Good work, son. You're doing the right thing looking after your mother." When they'd all left, Quentin lingered. "Mom, I know this is hard. Change is always hard. But we really think—" "Quentin." I touched his cheek the way I had when he was small. "Do you remember what your father used to say about decisions?" He frowned. "Measure twice, cut once?" "Sleep on the big ones." He relaxed slightly. "So you'll think about it?" "I'll think about it," I promised. After he left, I picked up the folder from the coffee table. Inside, property transfer documents, with helpful sticky notes marking where I should sign. A brochure for Sunset Meadows Senior Living Community. A financial projection showing how much money I'd have left after downsizing. I carried the folder to my office, unlocked the door, and sat at my desk. The monitors flickered to life, real-time data from 48 warehouses, shipping routes, revenue streams, employee schedules. One screen showed the Irving facility, the one Quentin's company leased space in. The building I'd owned for 18 months. The lease his company had at $30,000 a month when market rate was $65,000. I pulled up my contacts and called Margaret Thornton, my attorney. She answered on the first ring. "Penny, it's 8 o'clock. This must be bad. They brought a financial advisor to my house, Maggie. Had my property appraised without permission. Want me to sign over my house and move into a senior community." Silence. Then, "Those motherfuckers. I need you to prepare some documents." "What kind of documents?" I looked at the folder in front of me. Their tidy plan for my life, my home, my future. All decided without asking me a single question about what I wanted. The kind that teach my son the difference between inheriting something and assuming he deserves it. Margaret's voice went sharp, focused. "How aggressive are we talking?" I thought about Richard in the garage, about the note he'd left, about how he'd hidden his failures until they consumed him, about how I'd spent 3 years trying to protect Quentin from that same darkness by controlling everything. And I thought about the truth. Protection was just another word for suffocation. "Aggressive enough that he learns," I said. "But Maggie? Not cruel. Never cruel. I'm teaching him, not destroying him." "Understood. I'll have options for you by tomorrow." After we hung up, I sat in the dark, the monitors painting my face in blue light. Somewhere in this house, Richard's ghost was watching. I couldn't tell if he'd approve of what I was about to do, but I knew this. I couldn't save him. Maybe I could save our son instead, even if he hated me for it. 2 weeks later, Madison texted, "Dinner at your place Friday? Want to celebrate? Big news." I knew what the big news would be before they arrived. I'd seen the paperwork on Madison's Instagram story. She'd posted a photo of a real estate attorney's business card with the caption, "Taking care of family business." The comments had been telling. Good for you. Old people can be so stubborn about change. My Emil was the same way, LOL. We had to basically force her to downsize. Sometimes you have to make hard choices for them. Madison had liked every comment. Friday came. I made lasagna, stuffers from the frozen section at Walmart, because I was done performing. Let them think I couldn't cook anymore. Let them build their case. This time it was 6 of them. Quentin, Madison, Robert, Patricia, Trevor the financial advisor again, and, new addition, Robert's brother, James Morrison, who introduced himself as an estate attorney. Just hear his family, James said with the kind of smile that preceded litigation. Nothing official. We ate in my dining room. Madison had brought flowers, expensive ones from a boutique, not the grocery store kind. She'd also brought her Canon camera and took photos of everything. The table setting, the food, the living room visible through the doorway. For my design portfolio, she explained, I'm documenting before and after transformations. Before I've agreed to anything, I thought. Before you even own it. The conversation felt choreographed. Robert talked about downsizing his own mother last year. Patricia mentioned how much happier her aunt was in assisted living. James casually brought up the legal complications of estate transfers. Then Quentin cleared his throat. Mom, Madison and I have some news. Madison grabbed his hand, beaming. We're going to start trying for a baby. The table erupted in congratulations. Patricia teared up. Robert ordered champagne. He'd brought a bottle, I noticed. Pre-planned. That's wonderful, sweetheart, I said and meant it. I wanted to be a grandmother. Wanted to hold a baby who had Quentin's eyes, and maybe, if genetics were kind, Richard's goodness. Which is why, Quentin continued, we really need to finalize the housing situation. A baby needs space, stability. Madison jumped in. This house is perfect for a family, Penelope. 3 bedrooms, that big backyard. We could set up a nursery in the room that used to be Quentin's. The room that's currently my guest room, I said quietly. Well, yes, but you never have guests. Because my son never visits unless he wants something I didn't say. James the attorney produced papers from his briefcase, thicker than the last set, more official. Penelope, I've drawn up transfer documents that protect everyone. You'd retain life estate rights, meaning you can stay in the residence until I die or move to a facility, I finished. I understand how life estates work, James. Of course. He smiled. This is really the cleanest solution. Avoids estate taxes, protects the property from Medicare recovery, ensures your son's family has security. Patricia leaned forward. Penelope, dear, you understand this is what's best for everyone. You're not getting any younger. What if something happens to you? What if you fall or... I run 6 miles every morning, I said. My last physical was perfect. For now, Robert interjected. But Penny, be realistic. You're 58. In 5 years, 10 years, you'll need care. Wouldn't you rather decide your future now, while you can, instead of having it decided for you? The threat was subtle but clear. Give us the house, or we'll have you declared incompetent. Madison's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, typed something, smiled. Then, as if remembering where she was, Sorry, work emergency. My client wants to see mock-ups tonight. She turned the phone toward me. Actually, Penelope, I was hoping to get your input. This is a renovation plan I'm working on. The screen showed my living room, my furniture, photoshopped with white walls, modern fixtures, a caption reading, Mid-century modern meets contemporary elegance. She'd already redesigned my house. Beautiful, I said evenly. Whose home is that? Madison's smile faltered for just a second. Oh, just a theoretical project. Design practice. Quentin wouldn't look at me. He knew. He knew she was planning renovations before I'd agreed to anything. I stood up. Excuse me a moment. In my office, I locked the door and called Margaret. They're pushing, I said without preamble. Estate attorney implied threats about incompetence proceedings. How fast can you move? I can have everything ready by Monday. But Penny, are you sure? Once you do this, there's no taking it back. I thought about Madison's Instagram, about Quentin's silence, about the way they'd all sat at my table, eating my food, planning my future without ever once asking what I wanted. "Do it," I said. "All of it." When I returned to the dining room, James was explaining tax implications. I let him finish. "Thank you all for coming," I said. "I'll need time to review everything with my own attorney." Quentin frowned. "You have an attorney?" "Baby, I have 3. Everyone should have legal counsel for major decisions." Robert's expression hardened. "Penelope, we're not trying to trick you. This is family." "Then family can wait for me to make an informed choice." After they left, I found the flowers Madison had brought, already wilting in the Texas heat because she'd forgotten to put them in water. I threw them away and opened my email. The message was there, sent an hour ago, from James Morrison's law firm. Subject line: Notice of petition for financial competency evaluation. They were already filing. I forwarded it to Margaret, then opened my safe and pulled out Richard's suicide note. Read it again in the kitchen light. I can't let them see me fail. "You taught him to hide," I whispered to my dead husband. "You taught him that failure was shameful, that asking for help was weakness." I folded the note carefully, put it back. "I won't make the same mistake, even if it breaks us both first." From Morrison Legal Group to Penelope Ashcroft. Date Friday, 9:47 p.m. Subject: Notice of petition for financial competency evaluation. Dear Mrs. Ashcroft, this correspondence serves as formal notice that James T. Morrison, Esquire, on behalf of concerned family members, intends to file a petition with the Dallas County Probate Court, seeking evaluation of your capacity to manage financial affairs. Evidence to be presented includes documented inability to maintain employment since spouse's death, excessive property maintenance costs relative to income, resistance to sound financial counsel, social isolation, and potential cognitive decline. This action is taken out of genuine concern for your welfare. We encourage you to retain legal representation. Sincerely, James T. Morrison, attorney at law. I read it 3 times. Each time a different kind of anger built in my chest. They thought I was incompetent. They thought I was failing. They thought I needed to be managed like a child who couldn't balance a checkbook. My phone buzzed. Quentin. "Mom, I just found out about the legal thing. I didn't know James was going to file that. I swear." I stared at the text. Didn't respond. Quentin. "But maybe it's not a bad idea, just to make sure everything's okay. We love you. We're worried. We, him and Madison. Them against me." Quentin. "Please don't be mad. We're just trying to help." I typed 3 different responses, deleted them all. Finally, me. "See you Sunday. We'll talk then." Quentin. "Thank you. I love you, Mom." I set the phone down and walked to my office, pulled up the company dashboard. Ashcroft Logistics, real-time data streaming across 3 monitors. Current valuation, $68.2 million. Daily revenue, $223,000. Assets, 48 warehouse facilities. Employees, 847. Client accounts, 326. One of those client accounts was Morrison Automotive Group. 3 dealerships, shipping automotive parts through my Irving facility. Current monthly charges, $48,000. Another client account was Sync Tech Solutions, Quentin's company. Monthly warehouse lease, $30,000, 46% below market rate. I opened a new document and began typing. To Margaret Thornton, attorney at law, from Penelope Ashcroft. Immediate action required. Maggie, they filed for competency evaluation. Attached, you'll find 1. My response. Complete financial disclosure to the court. 2. New lease terms for SyncTech Solutions. Market rate, effective September 1st. 3. Revised rates for Morrison Automotive Group. Industry standard plus 15% premium for clients who question my competency. 4. Property transfer documents. The house goes into family trust with 60-day residency notice for current occupants. I'm done playing their game. Time to show them what competence actually looks like. I hit send at 11:47 p.m. At 11:51, my phone rang. Margaret. Penny, you're putting Quentin's company in a difficult position. That rent increase, his CFO is going to notice. Good. And the Morrisons will scream bloody murder. Even better. You're sure about this? There's still time to... I'm sure. Silence. Then Margaret's voice, softer. Richard would have hated this. Richard died because he was too proud to ask for help and too ashamed to fail where people could see. I won't let Quentin make the same mistake. If I have to burn everything down to teach him what actually matters, then that's what I'll do. Okay, Margaret said. Okay, I'll file everything first thing Monday morning. After we hung up, I sat at my desk and stared at Richard's photo on the wall. The two of us at our company's 10th anniversary party, both smiling, both lying about how fine everything was. Forgive me, I whispered, but I wasn't sure if I was talking to Richard or to Quentin. Maybe both. Maybe neither of them would. The Morrison Family Foundation annual gala was held at the Houston Country Club, where membership cost more than most people's houses, and the valet parking attendants wore white gloves. I'd received the invitation 3 weeks ago. Heavy cardstock, gold embossing, Madison's handwriting on the envelope. Please come, Penelope. It would mean so much to the family. I'd almost declined. Then Margaret called. They're using the gala to build their case, she'd said. Morrison's attorney is telling people you're declining socially, becoming reclusive. It feeds their incompetence narrative. So I should go? You should go. And Penny, wear the dress. The dress. The one I'd worn to accept my Businesswoman of the Year award. Midnight blue silk, elegant without being flashy. It had cost $1,800, and I'd worn it exactly once. It had been hanging in my closet for 2 years, dry cleaning bag still on. I paired it with my Target cardigan. The valet's face when I pulled up in my 2003 Honda Civic was almost worth the price of admission. He took my keys like I'd handed him a dead fish. Inside, the ballroom glittered. Crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures, women in gowns that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. I spotted Madison immediately. She was wearing red, always red when she wanted attention, holding court with her design clients. She saw me and her face did something complicated. Surprise, then dismay, then a quick recovery smile. Penelope, she air-kissed my cheeks. You came, and you wore... That's lovely. Very understated. Her friends tittered. One of them, a blonde in Valentino, looked me up and down. Madison, you didn't mention your mother-in-law was coming. Last-minute decision, Madison said tightly. Penelope, why don't you find your seat? You're at table 12, in the back. Table 12 was next to the kitchen doors. I sat between a silent elderly man who kept checking his watch and a woman who introduced herself as someone's +1 and then ignored me entirely. From my vantage point, I could see the Morrison table. Front and center naturally. Robert in a tuxedo that strained slightly across his middle. Patricia dripping in diamonds. James, the attorney, schmoozing with a judge. And Quentin, my son, laughing at something Robert said, his arm around Madison's shoulders. He looked happy. He looked like he belonged there, in that world of crystal and lies. The program began. Patricia took the stage to welcome everyone, her voice amplified by the sound system. She thanked the donors, introduced the cause, literacy programs for underprivileged children, which was genuinely good work wrapped in self-congratulation. Then came the donor recognition. Our bronze donors contributing $5,000 to $10,000, a smattering of applause. Names I didn't recognize. Our silver donors $10,000 to $25,000, more applause. Robert Morrison's dealerships were listed. Polite clapping. Our gold donors $25,000 to $50,000. The applause grew. Madison's design firm was listed. I knew for a fact she didn't have $50,000 to donate. Probably put it on credit. And now, Patricia paused for effect, our platinum donor, contributing $500,000 to this year's literacy initiative. The room went quiet with anticipation. Ashcroft Logistics. My cue. I stood up from table 12 and began walking toward the stage. The room was silent now, confused. Who was this woman in the blue dress and Target cardigan? Why was she walking from the cheap seats? Patricia continued, reading from her notes. Accepting on behalf of Ashcroft Logistics, please welcome the company's founder and CEO. She looked up, saw me walking. Her face went white. Mrs. Penelope Ashcroft. Climax number 1. The revelation. The silence was absolute. 300 people watching a woman they dismissed walk to the front of the ballroom. I took the stairs to the stage slowly, carefully. Patricia stood frozen, the crystal award in her hands. I took it from her, smiled, and turned to face the crowd. "Thank you," I said into the microphone. "I'm honored to support such important work." I could see Madison's table, see her mouth literally hanging open, see Robert Morrison gripping his whiskey glass so hard I thought it might shatter, see James the attorney frantically typing on his phone, and Quentin, my son, staring at me like I was a stranger. "Many of you know me as Richard Ashcroft's widow," I continued. "Some of you think you know my circumstances. You've seen my car, my clothes, my quiet life. You've made assumptions." The room was so quiet I could hear the ice melting in the sculptures. "My late husband taught me that wealth whispers while need shouts. He taught me that the most powerful people in any room are often the ones nobody notices." I paused. "He also taught me that family should be about love, not leverage." Patricia made a small noise. Robert half stood, then sat back down. Ashcroft Logistics operates 48 warehouse facilities across 12 states. We employ 847 people, many of them working parents trying to build better lives for their children. That's why I'm passionate about literacy programs, because education is the only inheritance that can't be taxed, stolen, or taken away. I looked directly at Quentin. Some people inherit money, some inherit property. But the only inheritance worth having is the knowledge that you built something yourself, that you earned what you have, that nobody can ever say you didn't deserve it. I held up the Crystal Award. "Thank you for this recognition. The real heroes are the volunteers teaching children to read. I'm just someone who learned the hard way that you can't put a price on dignity." I walked off the stage. The applause started slowly, then built. By the time I reached the steps, it was thunderous. But I wasn't listening to the applause. I was watching Quentin push back from his table and stride toward the exit, Madison hurrying after him. Good, they caught me in the parking lot. I was fishing my valet ticket from my purse when Quentin grabbed my arm. "What the hell was that?" I looked at his hand on my arm. He released me immediately. "That was me accepting a donation award for my company." "Your company?" He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Your company. You own Ashcroft Logistics. You're the CEO. And you never thought to mention this?" Madison appeared at his shoulder, her face blotchy with rage or tears or both. "You humiliated us. Do you know what people are saying?" "I imagine they're saying I donated $500,000 to teach children to read." "They're saying we tried to declare you incompetent." Madison's voice went shrill. "They're saying we tried to steal your house. My clients are already texting me. I've lost the Brennan account, Penelope. $100,000 project. Gone." "Maybe you should have thought about that before you posted my living room on Instagram with renovation plans." Madison's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. Quentin stepped between us. "Mom, we need to talk. Somewhere private." "We can talk right here. People are watching. Let them watch." I was tired, so tired of pretending. "You want to know why I didn't tell you about the company? Ask yourself when you last visited me without wanting something. Ask yourself when you last called just to see how I was doing. That's not fair. You had my house appraised without my permission. You brought a financial advisor to my home. You filed a petition to have me declared incompetent. My voice didn't rise. Didn't need to. And through all of it, you never once asked me what I wanted. Because you wouldn't have told us the truth." Quentin's voice broke. "You've been lying this whole time." "I haven't lied about anything. You assumed I was poor because I drive an old car. You assumed I was failing because I don't wear designer clothes. You saw what you wanted to see. Twist number 2. The business connection. Robert Morrison stormed across the parking lot, Patricia and James trailing behind. Penelope, we need to discuss this situation immediately. There's nothing to discuss, Robert. The hell there isn't. Morrison Automotive does $48,000 a month in business with Ashcroft Logistics. Are you telling me you've known this entire time? I've known that my company provides excellent service at competitive rates, yes. His face went purple. We're family. This is a conflict of interest. Is it? I tilted my head. You're the one who tried to have me declared incompetent while doing business with my company. If anyone has a conflict, Robert, it's you. James, the attorney, stepped forward. Mrs. Ashcroft, I'm withdrawing the competency petition immediately. This was clearly a misunderstanding. Oh, don't withdraw it on my account. I opened my purse and pulled out a manila envelope. My attorney prepared a response. Complete financial disclosure, including verification from 3 physicians that I'm in perfect mental and physical health. I was planning to file it Monday. I handed the envelope to James. You'll also find amended service agreements in there. Morrison Automotive's new rate is $68,000 per month. Still competitive, but reflective of the market value for clients who question my business acumen. You can't do that, Robert sputtered. I absolutely can. It's called capitalism, Robert. You taught me well. Twist number 3. Quentin's company. I turned to Quentin. SyncTech Solutions. Your company leases warehouse space from Ashcroft Logistics, the Irving facility, 20,000 square feet, correct? He nodded slowly, his face pale. Your current lease is $30,000 a month. Did you know market rate for that space is $65,000? Silence. I've been subsidizing your company's logistics for 18 months, saving you $420,000 a year. I let that sink in. Your rent is going to market rate September 1st. That's in your envelope too, James. Madison grabbed Quentin's arm. $65,000? We can't afford that? Our whole budget? Then adjust your budget. Cut costs. Get creative. You know, all those things you kept telling me to do. Quentin looked like I'd slapped him. Mom, that'll destroy us. We're barely profitable as it is. If costs go up, I could lose my job. The board might restructure the whole company. Then I suggest you figure it out. I looked at my son, really looked at him. Saw the panic in his eyes, the genuine fear. Part of me wanted to fold, wanted to say I was kidding, it was all a test, everything would be fine. But that was the same impulse that had let Richard hide his failures until they killed him. You wanted me to face financial reality, I said softly. Now you face yours. Patricia tried one more time. Penelope, surely we can discuss this like reasonable adults. We could have, 3 weeks ago, over pot roast at my dining room table. Instead, you brought lawyers. I handed my valet ticket to the attendant who'd been watching this entire exchange with undisguised fascination. He practically ran to get my car. Wait. Quentin's voice was small. Mom, wait. Please. I stopped. Is this because of the house? Because I'm sorry, okay? We were wrong. I see that now. We'll drop everything, the transfer, all of it. Just don't do this. This isn't punishment, baby. This is me teaching you what your father never learned. What's that? That you can't control your way out of failure. That hiding from problems doesn't make them disappear. That the people who love you can't help if you never tell them the truth. My Civic pulled up, exactly as unimpressive as when I'd arrived. I got in, rolled down the window. You have my number, I said. When you're ready to ask instead of demand, call me. I drove away, leaving them standing in the parking lot of the Houston Country Club, surrounded by their shattered assumptions. In my rearview mirror, I saw Quentin sink down onto the curb, his head in his hands. Madison stood frozen, her phone in her hand, probably watching her social media implode in real time. I made it 2 miles before I had to pull over. My hands were shaking so badly I couldn't hold the steering wheel. I'd done it. I'd revealed everything. Humiliated them publicly. Destroyed their credibility. put Quentin's job at risk. I'd taught them a lesson. So why did I feel like I was going to throw up? I pulled out my phone and called Margaret. "It's done," I said when she answered. "How do you feel?" "Like I just burned down my relationship with my son to prove a point." "Penny? What if I'm wrong, Maggie? What if I'm just as bad as them? What if I'm using money to control people the same way they tried to control me?" Margaret was quiet for a long moment. "Are you?" "I don't know anymore." "Then maybe it's time to find out." The internet moves fast, but wealthy people's gossip moves faster. By Saturday morning, my phone had 17 voicemails. I listened to them over coffee, watching the sunrise through my kitchen window. Message 1, 11:47 p.m. Friday. "Mrs. Ashcroft, this is Trevor Gaines. I want to sincerely apologize for any role I played in the misunderstanding about your finances. If there's anything I can do to make this right..." Delete message 3, 1:23 a.m. a.m. Saturday. "Penelope, it's Patricia. We need to talk. What happened tonight? There are ways to handle these things privately. Robert is very upset. Please call me." Delete message 7, 4:15 a.m. "Mom, it's me. I can't sleep. I keep thinking about Dad, about how he'd feel about all this. Call me back, please." I saved that one. Message 12, 8:03 a.m. Madison's voice, thick with tears. "My Instagram is gone. I had to delete it. The comments. People are vicious. They're calling me an elder abuser, a gold digger. One client called me a parasite. I built that following for 3 years, Penelope. 3 years. And you destroyed it in one speech." I saved that one too. Not to gloat, to remember. The doorbell rang at 9 a.m. I wasn't expecting anyone, but when I looked through the peephole, Margaret stood on my porch holding a box of donuts and 2 cups of coffee. "Intervention," she announced when I opened the door. "The good kind." We sat at my kitchen table. Margaret opened her laptop. "Okay, damage report. Morrison Automotive pulled their account this morning. Robert sent a very nasty email about unprofessional business practices and personal vendettas. Good riddance, his dealerships were always late on payments anyway." SyncTech Solutions, Quentin's company. Their board called an emergency meeting for Monday. Someone leaked the lease increase. Stock dropped 4% when the market opened. My coffee turned sour in my mouth. How bad? Not catastrophic. But the CFO is asking questions about why their rent was so far below market value to begin with, whether Quentin disclosed the family connection. It's an ethics issue now. Will he lose his job? Margaret looked at me over her laptop. Maybe. Depends on how the board votes. I set my cup down carefully. I didn't mean for... Yes, you did. Margaret's voice was gentle but firm. You knew exactly what would happen when you revealed everything. You calculated the impact. Don't pretend otherwise. She was right. I had known. The question, Margaret continued, is whether you're prepared for what comes next. What comes next? She turned the laptop to face me. On the screen, Madison's Instagram account, or what was left of it. The profile was set to private now, but screenshots had already spread across Twitter, Facebook, local Houston gossip forums. One particular post had gone viral. The photo of my living room with Madison's renovation caption. Someone had found it in a cached version before she deleted everything. The comments were brutal. She was planning to renovate her Emil's house before getting permission? Disgusting. This is literally elder abuse. Someone should call APS. The entitlement is insane, that poor woman. I hope the ML takes everything. This girl deserves it. There was a Reddit thread. AITA for publicly revealing I'm a millionaire after my son tried to declare me incompetent. It had 47,000 upvotes and 8,000 comments, most of them supporting me. You're a folk hero, Margaret said dryly. The poor widow who secretly owned the company. People love this story. I'm not a hero. I'm a mother who just torpedoed her son's career. You're a mother who taught her son a very expensive lesson about assumptions. Margaret closed the laptop. But Penny, we need to talk about Endgame. What do you actually want out of this? I looked around my kitchen. The same kitchen where Richard and I had raised Quentin, where I'd taught him to make scrambled eggs and tie his shoes and say please and thank you, where I'd hidden my grief and my secrets and my carefully managed empire. I want him to ask for help, I said quietly. I want him to admit he's in over his head instead of pretending everything's fine. I want him to be honest with me about his struggles instead of trying to steal my house to cover his debts. He's got $87,000 in credit card debt, Margaret said. Did you know that? I suspected. And gambling. Online poker, sports betting. Nothing catastrophic yet, but trending that direction. My blood ran cold. How do you know that? Because I'm your attorney and I do my job. She pulled out another folder. Background check. Standard procedure when someone threatens legal action. Quentin's got a problem, Penny. Not as bad as Richard's drinking was, but the same pattern. Hide, spend, hope nobody notices. I thought about Richard in the garage. About the note. I can't let them see me fail. That's why you're doing this, Margaret said softly. You're not punishing Quentin. You're trying to save him before he makes Richard's choice. Am I? My voice cracked. Or am I just recreating the same dynamic? Controlling him with money instead of helping him? I don't know, Penny. That's what you need to figure out. Monday morning, I did something I hadn't done in 3 years. I went to my office. Ashcroft Logistics headquarters occupied the top 3 floors of a building in Irving. Nothing flashy. We were a logistics company, not a tech startup. But the office was mine. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Dallas skyline. A desk made from reclaimed warehouse wood. Walls covered with photos of ribbon cuttings, employee celebrations, community service events. And in the corner, a framed photo of Richard and me at the original warehouse opening in 2008. Both of us wearing hard hats, holding shovels, grinning like idiots. My assistant, Kara, nearly fainted when I walked in. Mrs. Ashcroft, we weren't expecting... you usually work from home. Should I call the senior staff? No meetings today. I just need some quiet time. She nodded and disappeared. Smart woman. She'd been with the company for 6 years and had learned when to ask questions and when to just bring coffee. I sat at my desk and opened my email. 847 unread messages, most of them from this weekend. Congratulations on the gala speech. Questions about the Morrison account. 3 new client inquiries. Apparently publicly humiliating your family was good for business. And 1 email that made me stop breathing. From Robert Patterson. Subject: Irving Facility Purchase Offer. Date: Sunday, 10:23 p.m. Penelope, I've followed your career with interest for years. What you've built with Ashcroft is impressive. I'm prepared to offer $35 million for the Irving facility. Cash. Close in 30 days. I'll maintain SyncTech's lease at their current rate for 24 months as a courtesy to you. This gives your son time to stabilize his company while you liquidate a major asset. Everyone wins. Robert Patterson, Patterson Logistics Group. I stared at the email for a long time. $35 million. A clean exit. Quentin keeps his job. I prove I'm not vindictive. We all move on. It was the smart move, the kind move, the move Richard would have made. Always smoothing things over. Always making sure everyone was comfortable, even when it cost him. I picked up my phone and called Margaret. Patterson wants to buy the Irving facility. I know. He called me Friday night to float the idea. $35 million is fair value. He'll keep Quentin's lease at the low rate. For 2 years, which solves your immediate problem. So I should take it. Silence, then. Is that a question or a statement? I looked at the photo of Richard, tried to imagine what he'd say, but all I could remember was his note. I can't let them see me fail. Maggie, I need to tell you something. Something I haven't told anyone. Okay, twist number 5, the hidden truth. Richard didn't die of a stroke. I heard her intake of breath. Penny, I found him in the garage. Engine running, carbon monoxide. The coroner was kind enough to rule it a stroke in the autopsy report, but I saw the note. I know what he did. Oh, honey. He was drowning in debt. The company was failing. But he couldn't tell anyone because asking for help meant admitting failure. So he hid it. Hid everything, until there was nowhere left to hide. My voice was steady. I'd had 3 years to practice this speech in my head. I took the insurance money and my inheritance from my father and bought the company from the creditors. Saved it, rebuilt it, made it worth something. And I swore I would never let Quentin make the same mistake his father did. Is that what you're doing? Margaret asked gently. Saving Quentin from Richard's fate? I thought I was. But now I'm wondering if I'm just controlling him the same way I controlled Richard. Making decisions for him, managing his life, never letting him struggle because struggle means failure, and failure is shameful, Margaret finished. That's what Richard believed. What if I believe it too? What if I'm just better at hiding it? Margaret was quiet for a long moment. What does Quentin believe? I don't know. I've never asked. Maybe you should. After I hung up, I sat in my office and thought about control, about love, about the difference between protecting someone and suffocating them. At 3 p.m., Kara knocked softly. Mrs. Ashcroft? There's someone here to see you. He doesn't have an appointment, but he says he's your son. My heart jumped. Send him in. But it wasn't Quentin who walked through my door. It was Richard. No, not Richard. Quentin. But he looked so much like his father in that moment. Shoulders slumped, eyes red, wearing a suit that suddenly looked too big for him. Mom, he said. We need to talk. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. Quentin sat, but he wouldn't look at me. His eyes wandered over the office, the photos on the walls, the awards, the evidence of a life he knew nothing about. Nice place, he said finally. How long have you had this office? 3 years since I took over the company. 3 years, he laughed, bitter. 3 years of Sunday dinners. 3 years of me complaining about my job, my bills, my problems. And you just sat there listening, knowing you could solve everything with a phone call. I was listening because I'm your mother and I care about your problems. But you never helped. You just let me struggle. Yes. The word hung between us. Quentin's head snapped up. Why? I stood and walked to the window. The Irving warehouse was visible from here, a sprawling complex of loading docks and storage units. Somewhere in that building, Quentin's company leased space, shipped products, ran the daily operations that kept them profitable. I need to show you something, I said. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out the folder I'd brought from my safe deposit box that morning. Inside, Richard's suicide note, still creased from where I'd folded and unfolded it 1,000 times. I handed it to Quentin. He read it once, twice. His hands started shaking. Dad killed himself? Yes. The stroke was, the coroner lied. For me. For us. So we wouldn't have to live with the shame. Quentin looked up at me with Richard's eyes. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was ashamed. Because I failed him. Because I didn't see how bad things had gotten until it was too late. I sat down across from my son. Your father was brilliant and kind and the best man I ever knew, but he had a flaw, baby. He thought asking for help was weakness. He thought admitting struggle meant admitting failure. So when the company started going under, when the debts piled up, when everything was falling apart, he hid it. From me, from you, from everyone. Tears ran down Quentin's face. He didn't wipe them away. He left me that note and started the car in the garage, and I found him 2 hours later. Mom, I rebuilt the company because I couldn't save him. I hid my success from you because I wanted to see if you'd learned his lesson or inherited his flaw. And when you started hiding your debts, your gambling, your struggles, when you tried to take my house instead of asking for help, I knew. Knew what? That you're just like him, and you're headed down the same path unless someone stops you. Quentin stood abruptly, pacing. So what? You decided to destroy my career? Humiliate me publicly? That's how you save me? I decided to stop protecting you from reality. Reality? You want to know about reality, Mom? His voice rose. My company is voting Friday on whether to cape me. The board thinks I committed ethics violations by not disclosing our family connection to Ashcroft. My CFO is talking about restructuring the entire logistics department. I could lose my job. I know. And Madison, he choked. Her business is gone. 3 years of building a reputation, destroyed in one weekend. We might lose our apartment. We can't afford it without her income. What apartment? He stopped pacing. What? You told me you owned a condo. That's what you said at Christmas. We lease it. Where do you live, Quentin? Why does it matter? Because I'm your mother, and I don't know where my son lives. The words came out louder than I intended. Quentin flinched. We live in your guest house, he said quietly. The converted garage apartment. You let us stay there 2 years ago when we were saving for a down payment. We never left. The room tilted slightly. You've been living in my guest house for 2 years? You didn't notice? I thought you were visiting. I stopped, sat down. You've been living on my property this whole time, and you were trying to take the main house. We were trying to consolidate our situation, he said. Madison thought if we owned the property, we could refinance, use the equity to cover your debts. Silence. How much do you owe, baby? Total. Everything. Quentin's face crumpled. Including credit cards, Madison's business loans, and the gambling sites. About $212,000. The number hit me like a physical blow. $200,000. I was going to fix it. I had a plan. If we got the house, we could sell it for $740, pay off everything, have enough left to buy something smaller. You were going to sell my home to cover your gambling debts. I know how it sounds. Do you? I stood up, walked around the desk, stood in front of my son. Do you know how it sounds to hear that my child, my only child, was planning to make me homeless so he could pay off sports bets? You wouldn't have been homeless. We were going to help you find a nice condo. I don't want a nice condo. I want my home, the home your father and I built, the home where I raised you. We were both shouting now. Kara had probably called security. I didn't care. You want to know why I didn't tell you about the company? I yelled. Because I wanted to see if you'd come to me honestly. If you'd say, Mom, I'm in trouble. I made mistakes. I need help. But you didn't. You tried to steal from me instead. Because I knew you'd judge me, Quentin shouted back. Just like you're judging me now. Just like you judged Dad. The room went silent. What did you say? Quentin's face was red, tears streaming. You judged Dad. You just said it. You were ashamed of him. He couldn't come to you for help because he knew you'd see him as a failure. Just like I can't come to you because you'll see me the same way. That's not, isn't it? When have you ever been wrong, Mom? When have you ever needed anyone? You're perfect. You built a company. You made millions. You never struggle, never fail, never need help. How the hell am I supposed to ask you for anything when you've never needed anything from anyone? His words hit something deep inside me, something I'd been avoiding for 3 years. The door opened. Madison stood there, her face blotchy and makeup free. Nothing like the polished designer I'd met at Sunday dinners. I'm sorry to interrupt, she said quietly. But Quentin, I told you I needed to be here for this. She walked in and stood next to my son, not touching him, but present. Mrs. Ashcroft, Penelope, I need to tell you something about why I pushed so hard for the house. She took a shaky breath. 5 years ago, my sister Julia killed herself. She was 26, struggling with debt, with depression, with feeling like she couldn't keep up with everyone's expectations. She hid it from all of us. I felt my chest tighten. I found her in her apartment. She'd taken pills, left a note that said she was sorry for being such a burden. Madison's voice didn't break. She'd told this story before, I realized, probably in therapy. After Julia died, I became obsessed with control, with planning, with making sure I'd never be in a position where I couldn't save someone I loved. When I met Quentin and realized he had money problems, I panicked. I thought if I could just control the finances, plan everything perfectly, we'd be safe. She looked at me directly for the first time. I didn't see you as a person, Penelope. I saw you as an asset. a problem to be managed, a source of equity that could make us safe. And I'm so sorry. I sat down heavily in my chair. 2 suicides. Richard and Julia, both hiding their pain until it killed them. And here we all were, 3 people trying to control our way out of grief, using money as a weapon and a shield. I didn't judge your father, I said quietly. I judged myself for not seeing, for not asking the right questions, for being so busy managing the company that I didn't notice my husband was dying inside. I looked at Quentin. And you're right. I've never asked you for help because I'm terrified of needing people. Because the last time I needed someone, needed your father to talk to me, to trust me, he chose death instead. The 3 of us sat in my office, surrounded by the evidence of my success and our collective failures. I don't know how to do this, I said. I don't know how to be your mother without controlling you. I don't know how to help without managing. I don't know, Mom. Quentin's voice was soft. Can I ask you something? Anything. Will you help me? The words I'd been waiting for. The honest admission, the request instead of the demand. Yes, I said, but not the way you think. I pulled out the folder Margaret had prepared, the one I'd been avoiding all weekend. Here's what I'm offering. I'll pay off your debts, all $212,000. Every penny. Quentin's face flooded with relief. But, I continued, you'll pay me back. 0% interest. Over 10 years. $2,100 a month, give or take. The relief dimmed. Mom, we can't afford. You'll figure it out. You'll cut expenses. You'll work second jobs if you have to. You'll live like I live. Not poor, but carefully. Madison spoke up. What about my business? I can't get clients with my reputation destroyed. Then rebuild it. Start small. Do good work. Let your results speak instead of your Instagram following. I looked at both of them. And there's one more condition. Quentin, you're going to work for me. What? Warehouse floor, Irving facility, minimum wage plus benefits, 6 months minimum. I want you to understand this business from the ground up. Meet the people who make it work. Learn what it costs to run a company before you try to run one yourself. But my job at SyncTech, they're going to let you go. The board meeting is a formality. I talked to your CFO this morning. Quentin looked like I'd punched him. You got me fired? The ethics violation got you fired. I just confirmed the inevitable. I softened my voice. Baby, you can't save that job, but you can save yourself, if you're willing to work for it. He stood there, shaking, tears still running down his face. And if I say no, then I'll still love you, but I won't enable you. The rent on the guest house goes to market rate, $1,800 a month. The debt is yours to manage, and you figure out your future without my interference. Madison grabbed Quentin's hand. We should take it. Madison, we should take it. It's the only help we're going to get. And maybe, she looked at me, maybe it's the help we actually need. Quentin stood there for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay, I'll do it. But Mom, I have one condition too. What's that? You have to tell me the truth about everything. No more secrets, no more tests. If you're angry, tell me. If you're scared, tell me. If you need me, his voice broke. If you need me, you have to ask. I stood up and walked around the desk, pulled my son into a hug for the first time in months. Deal, I whispered. We stood there in my office, mother, son, and daughter-in-law, holding on to each other while the Texas sun set over the warehouse where Quentin would start his new life tomorrow. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was honest. And honest was a start. 3 months later, I stood in the observation deck of the Irving facility watching my son operate a forklift. Quentin wore a safety vest 2 sizes too big and steel-toed boots that had given him blisters the first week. His hair stuck to his forehead with sweat. The warehouse wasn't air-conditioned, just massive fans that pushed hot air around like a convection oven. He'd lost 15 pounds. gained calluses, stopped checking his phone every 5 minutes because there was no time, no signal, no point. Your boy's doing good. Jose Ramirez stood beside me, arms crossed. He'd worked warehouse logistics for 25 years, the last 6 with Ashcroft. He was the kind of man Richard would have respected. Steady, competent, no nonsense. He complained much? I asked. First 2 weeks? Constantly. Jose grinned. Kept talking about his MBA, how he'd done supply chain optimization at his old job. Marcus told him if he was so smart, he could optimize his way into loading that truck faster. And now? Now he shuts up and does the work. Still slow, but he's learning. Jose watched Quentin carefully maneuver a pallet into position. Last week he suggested a new loading pattern for the morning shift. Actually saved us about 40 minutes a day. Pride bloomed warm in my chest. Did you implement it? Hell yes. Good idea's a good idea, don't matter who it comes from. Jose glanced at me. He asked you about his old job yet? No. Why? Because SyncTech's new logistics manager came by yesterday, wanted to tour the facility, talk about renewing their lease at market rate. Your son spent 20 minutes explaining our inventory system to him. Professional, helpful. Didn't mention they used to work together. I watched Quentin climb down from the forklift, grab his water bottle, exchange a fist bump with Marcus. He was laughing at something. When had I last seen him laugh like that? Unguarded, genuine. Jose, can I ask you something? Shoot. Am I doing the right thing? Making him work here? Jose was quiet for a moment. Mrs. Ashcroft, my son went to college, got a fancy degree, fancy job. Then he got laid off and came crying to me, wanted money to get back on his feet. You know what I told him? What? I told him to come work with me. Learn what work actually means. He lasted 3 days before he quit. Said it was beneath him. Jose's voice went tight. Now he's 34, living in my basement, still waiting for someone to hand him success. He looked at me. You're not punishing your son. You're giving him what mine never got. A chance to build something real. Madison called me on a Wednesday evening, her voice tentative. Penelope, do you have time for coffee? We met at a diner near the warehouse. Nothing fancy, just Formica tables and waitresses who called everyone honey. Madison arrived in jeans and a t-shirt, her hair in a ponytail. No makeup, no designer bag. I quit, she said after we ordered. Quit what? Instagram, social media, all of it. She stirred her coffee. My therapist said I was using it as a substitute for real connection, performing my life instead of living it. That must have been hard. It was terrifying. I had 14,000 followers. That was my identity. She smiled sadly. Turns out when you take that away, you have to figure out who you actually are. And? Who are you? Madison looked out the window at the parking lot, the strip mall, the ordinary Texas evening. I'm someone who's learning to be okay with ordinary. I got a job at a furniture store, retail sales. It's humbling. But my boss is teaching me about actual design, not just Instagram aesthetics. And I'm good at it. She met my eyes. Quentin and I are doing better. Marriage counseling helps. We're actually talking now, not just planning or managing or performing. It's messy and hard and real. I'm glad. I wanted to apologize. Really apologize, not just because things blew up. Madison's hands trembled slightly around her coffee cup. I saw you as an obstacle, a problem to solve. I never saw you as a person who might be grieving, might be lonely, might need her son. I didn't make it easy to see me. No, but that's not an excuse. She pulled out an envelope. I wanted to give you this. Inside was a check for $300. What's this? First payment. For the 2 years we lived in your guest house basically rent-free. I calculated what we should have paid. It's going to take us 5 years to pay it all back, but... Madison, you don't have to... Yes, I do. Because you were right. We need to understand what things cost. I folded the check and put it in my purse, though I'd never cash it. The gesture mattered more than the money. The Gamblers Anonymous meeting was held in a church basement on Thursday nights. I'd promised Quentin I wouldn't come, that this was his space, his recovery. But when he texted me, "Mom, I'm getting my 6-month chip tonight. Would you come?" I drove 40 minutes through traffic to be there. I sat in the back row while Quentin stood at the front holding a bronze medallion. 6 months, he said to the room of 30 strangers. 6 months since my last bet. 6 months since I admitted I had a problem. His voice was steady now. The executive polish was gone, replaced by something raw, more real. I gambled because I felt powerless. My dad built an empire. I built debt. Every bet was me trying to prove I was worth something, that I could win big, be successful, matter. He turned the chip over in his hands. What I'm learning, what this program is teaching me, is that worth isn't something you win. It's something you build, one day at a time, one honest choice at a time. He looked at the back of the room, found me. My mom gave me a gift 6 months ago, though I didn't understand it then. She let me fail where I could see it, and then she gave me a chance to get back up. After the meeting, Quentin introduced me to his sponsor, a man named Derek who owned a hardware store and had 10 years sober from gambling. "Your son's doing the work," Derek told me. "Not everyone does. Some people just go through the motions. But Quentin, he's rebuilding himself from the ground up." On the drive home, Quentin was quiet until we hit the highway. "Mom, thank you for coming. Always, baby. I mean it. Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I gave you every reason to." I reached over and squeezed his hand. "You're my son. I will never give up on you." My 59th birthday fell on a Saturday. I'd planned to spend it quietly, maybe a long run, some gardening, dinner with a book. Instead, Quentin and Madison showed up at noon with bags of groceries. "We're throwing you a party," Madison announced. "A real one, nothing fancy." They'd invited 20 people to my backyard. Jose and his wife, Margaret and her partner, Kara, from the office, some of my neighbors I'd barely spoken to in 3 years, Madison's boss from the furniture store, Derek from GA, no Morrisons. That bridge had burned thoroughly. The food was homemade. Quentin had learned to grill, and his burgers were almost as good as Richard's. Madison made potato salad from her grandmother's recipe. Everything was simple, real, unphotographed. As the sun set and people gathered around the picnic table, Quentin stood up. "Speech time," he announced, and everyone groaned good-naturedly. "Mom, a year ago I thought I knew what success looked like. Big job, nice car, impressive house. I thought you were failing because you didn't have those things." He pulled an envelope from his pocket. "Turns out I was the one failing. I was drowning in debt, lying to everyone including myself, trying to steal from the one person who always loved me." He handed me the envelope. "This is our first year of payments, all 12 months, on time. $2,100 a month plus the guest house back rent Madison calculated. Total $25,200. I opened the envelope. Inside, a cashier's check and a handwritten ledger showing every payment, every date, every dollar. "We have 9 more years to go," Quentin said, "but we'll make it, because you taught me that the only inheritance worth having is knowing you earned what you have." Climax number 3, emotional resolution. I stood up, tears already falling. "Quentin, I need to tell you something about your father." The backyard went quiet. Richard didn't just die of a stroke. He took his own life because he couldn't face failure, couldn't ask for help, couldn't let anyone see him struggle. Gasps from people who'd known Richard. Quentin's face went pale, but he didn't look surprised. "I know, Mom. I found his note last month. In your safe. I wasn't snooping. I was looking for the title to the guest house, and..." "You knew?" "I knew. And I understood why you never told me, why you pushed me so hard. You were trying to save me from making his choice." He walked over and hugged me. "But Mom, I'm not Dad. I'm not going to run when things get hard. Because you taught me that asking for help isn't weakness. It's the bravest thing you can do." We stood there in my backyard, holding each other, while our friends and family watched 2 people finally tell each other the truth. Monday morning, Margaret's office. Quentin, Madison, and I sat around the conference table while Margaret pulled out updated estate documents. Penelope has revised her will, Margaret began. Quentin, she wanted you present for this. The new terms were simple. The house, to Quentin and Madison upon my death. Ashcroft, logistics, 40% to Quentin, after working 5 years in the company. 40% distributed to senior employees, 20% to a charitable trust. Cash assets, $10 million to a scholarship fund for children of warehouse workers. Personal effects and remaining assets. To Quentin, you're giving away most of it, Quentin said quietly. I'm investing it in people who'll use it right, including you, but only after you've proven you understand what it takes to build something. Madison spoke up. What about the debt? The $200,000? What about it? If Quentin inherits, couldn't we just offset the debt against the inheritance? I smiled. You could, but you won't, because that would teach you nothing. Quentin nodded slowly. We'll keep paying. All 10 years. I know you will, baby. 6 months later, Sunday dinner had become our tradition again, but different this time. Quentin and Madison arrived at 5, grocery bags in hand. We cooked together in my kitchen. Nothing fancy, just roast chicken and vegetables. Quentin had gotten good at cooking, taking online classes during his lunch breaks. How's work? I asked, chopping carrots. Good. Jose is teaching me fleet management. Says if I keep improving, he might recommend me for a supervisor position next year. You'd be good at that. Madison set the table with my old china, the plates I'd inherited from my mother. Penelope, I have news. I got promoted to assistant manager at the furniture store. 20% raise. Madison, that's wonderful. It's not Instagram-level success, but it's real, and it's mine. We sat down to eat. No phones, no cameras, no performance. Just family, talking about real things. Quentin told me about a coworker's birthday party. Madison described a difficult customer who'd actually taught her something about patience. I shared stories about Richard, good memories I'd been too afraid to revisit. After dinner, washing dishes, Quentin spoke quietly. Mom, can I ask you something? Always. Do you forgive me? For trying to take the house? For the lies? For everything? I dried my hands and turned to face my son. Baby, I forgave you the moment you asked for help. Real help. Honest help. Even though I hurt you? Even though, because that's what love is. It's not keeping score. It's choosing someone over and over, even when they mess up. He hugged me, and I held my son the way I'd held him when he was small, tight enough to feel safe, loose enough to breathe. I love you, Mom. I love you too, baby. So much. Madison joined the hug, and we stood there in my kitchen, 3 broken people who'd learned to be honest with each other. It wasn't perfect. We still had hard days, difficult conversations, moments of frustration, but it was real, and real was everything. 2 years later, I stood in the Irving warehouse office, watching Quentin train a new employee on the inventory system. He'd been promoted to shift supervisor 6 months ago, and Jose said he was the best hire they'd made in years. My phone buzzed. A text from Madison with a photo, a positive pregnancy test. We're having a baby. We wanted you to be the first to know. I called her immediately. How far along? 8 weeks. We waited to tell anyone until we were sure. I'm so happy for you both. Penelope, Penny, we want to name him Richard. If it's a boy, is that okay? I looked at the photo of my husband on my desk. He would have loved that. After we hung up, I opened my journal, the one I'd been keeping since Richard's death. Turned to a blank page. Dear Richard, our grandson will carry your name. Quentin will teach him about honesty, about asking for help, about building something real. I'm selling the company next year. Patterson's offer is now $95 million. I'm ready to let go. Not because I'm giving up, because I finally learned what you never could, that holding on too tight breaks what you're trying to save. Quentin doesn't need my money. He needs what we forgot to give him. Permission to fail, to struggle, to be human. I forgive you, Richard, for leaving, for hiding, for thinking we needed you to be perfect. And I forgive myself too. All my love, Penny. I closed the journal and looked out at the warehouse floor, watched my son laugh with his coworkers, confident and capable and real. The inheritance I'd given him wasn't money or property. It was the truth. That worth isn't what you own. It's who you become when you're brave enough to ask for help. That failure isn't shameful. It's human. And that the greatest gift a parent can give is the space to fall and the faith that they'll get back up. I picked up my phone and texted Quentin. Sunday dinner at my place. I'm cooking. Bring your wife and my future grandson. His response came immediately. We'll be there. Love you, Mom. Love you too, baby. Always. Outside, the Texas sun set over 48 warehouses, 847 employees, and one woman who'd finally learned that you can't control your way into happiness. You can only love your way there. One honest Sunday dinner at a time.